Hello everybody, Inter back again with another video, and today's video, guys, is going to be about my all-time favorite Roger Federer. Someone said a couple of days ago that I am too unbiased, I'm too objective against Federer, and that in a way it is good. In a way I'm not too biased, I'm not too against Federer, but that it has been too much. I am not praising my favorite player enough. And I'm doing this classic mistake. As somebody said that to me a couple of days ago, me personally, I'm not calling this to being too unbiased. I'm calling to be pure and honest. I'm trying to be as honest as possible. Not just because Federer is my all-time favorite, I'm not gonna say Federer is good at something if he isn't, or say that Federer is bad at something if he isn't. So that's how I see it. But anyway, I'm gonna do a video about Roger Federer, my all-time favorite, and the video is gonna be called like it was called again, the video about Rafa Nadal. My top 6 reasons why Roger Federer is so murderous good on hardcourt and grass. Because we all know that hardcourt and grass are Federer's best surfaces. It is definitely not clay, even though that Federer is absolutely not weak on clay, but he is not as good on clay what he is on hardcourt and grass. Not even as close as good. So let's get into it, my friends, and let's not waste any time. On my number 6 place, I have Federer as super talented. We all know, guys, that you cannot be successful in tennis or in sport in general if you are not super talented. You have to start with talent. Already when they played tennis, when they started to play tennis when they were 4 or 5 years old, Federer, Djokovic and Nadal, they were super talented already when they took for the first time the racket on their hands. Because it is all where it starts with to be super talented. And some of you can say, and some of you have said, you cannot be a successful athlete, not only a tennis player, but an athlete in general, if you only are talented, but you are not a hard worker, a la Nick Kyrgios. We all know that Nick Kyrgios is crazy talented, but he is lazy. He doesn't train as hard as Federer, Djokovic and Nadal, and that's why he's not as successful as these 3 big giants. Yeah, that's true, I agree. Absolutely, good points. But you cannot only be a hard worker as well and not be super talented. Both these things has to go together. Both these things, my friends, and you all probably know this for sure. And I'm going to give you an example of that. David Federer is a great example. He's, my God, he's one of the hardest tennis players, the hard workers tennis players that we have ever seen throughout the years. He was training like a machine. He was not lazy whatsoever. He was fighting. He was a great competitor. He was giving his all on the tennis court. But we all know that he was not as talented as these big 3 as well, Djokovic, Nadal and Federer. He wasn't. That's a fact. He was not he didn't have a tremendous talent skills like these 3, because if he had, he would have been he would at least won a couple of majors. Not that Federer didn't have any successful tennis career, because he had. To win over 20 titles throughout your tennis career, it's a great result. We have players who barely wins 2 or 3 titles, and some of them none title at all throughout the tennis career, and they just play the Challengers Tour and the Future Tour and things like that. So, and Federer has won over 20 titles in his career and has played the Grand Slam final once, 2013 French Open, and lost to Nadal. But he has not had any successful tennis career like Djokovic, Nadal and Federer. Not even close. Why? Because he isn't even as close, as talented as these big 3 giants. And we all know that. A hard worker, absolutely. A super talented player, not. Decent talent, yes. But super deadly, murderous talent like these 3, no. So you have to have the both. And Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, of course, they have both of these things. So on my number 6 place, I have Federer as super talented. It is no question of a doubt that Federer is super talented. And that's why he won Australian Open 2017 after being not after not playing tennis and not competing for 6 months. Only a super talented guy can do that. Only. We all saw how it went for Djokovic in 2018, when he had a break in that 2017 after Wimbledon, and he didn't play tennis for 6 months, and then he did his comeback in 2018, and it took him 6 months to come up with his great level, with his good level, like we all used to, and when he won Wimbledon last year, 2018. Before that, he was not having any big success on the tennis court. Why? Because he is not as talented as Nadal and Federer. That's why, for me, Djokovic are in the third place when it comes to being most talented. For me, it is no question of a doubt that Djokovic is on the third place on this list when it comes to be most talented. And I did a video about this a couple of days ago, you know that. So Federer is on my number 6 place on this list. The reason why he's so murderous good on hardcourt and grass, because he's super talented, my tennis friends all around the world. On my number 5th place, I have Federer's consistency. I have been talking about consistency so many times, and I have praising Nadal so many times because I have said he's the most consistent tennis player of all time. And I'm not changing my mind about that, absolutely not, because when I say consistency, I mean Rafa in point construction, in point played, in point selection, in giving his all in every single point, in never being satisfied, in never giving 3 points away like Nadal never does, more or less. And Federer is not consistent in that kind of way, but Federer is consistent still. It doesn't mean that Federer isn't consistent. Federer is consistent in results. Federer, for God's sakes, he has played 31 Grand Slam finals and won 20 of them. That is consistent, for God's sakes. Of course the dude is consistent. You cannot be inconsistent and being this successful as a tennis player like Federer is. For God's sakes, he has won over 100 titles. He has won 102 titles. He is world number 3 still. Despite that he's 38 years old, he is the oldest world number 1 of all time. He's with his 36 years old when he became the oldest world number 1 last year, I believe, when he was 36 years old. So of course Federer is consistent. That is no question of a doubt. The dude is consistent, my friends. So Federer is consistent. That is on my number 5th place. You cannot be this successful. It is impossible to be this successful without being consistent. Everybody knows this, and you two guys knows that as well. I'm totally convinced about that. On my number 5th place, it is Federer's consistency level. On my number 4th place, my friends, I have Federer's attribute as an athlete. He is a great athlete. And not that Nadal isn't a great athlete, or Djokovic, of course they are that too. But Federer is a great athlete in a different way. To take example, Nadal. Nadal is a musculous tennis player. You have seen when Nadal takes his shirt off, and you have seen when Federer takes his shirt off. Nadal has those biceps. Nadal has those big arms. Federer isn't like that. If you see Federer without a shirt, you think that Federer, he's a supermodel or things like that. He's just a regular dude who's just taking a walk in the park on the streets. You don't give expression that Federer is a worldwide athlete or a superstar in his sport, like in tennis in this case, because he is a pure athlete, Federer. And Federer, like Nadal as well, if he had been involved in a different sport, and I've heard that he has been, like soccer, football, like you in the United States call it, we in Europe call it soccer. I've heard that he has been involved when he was a teenager, and he was pretty good at that sport as well. Why? Because he's a super great athlete. And I believe that Federer would have been successful in soccer as well. I'm totally convinced about that. I don't believe that that he would have been as successful as he has been in tennis. No, I don't believe that, because I think that Federer, I'm a big believer that Federer was born, he was gifted to be a successful tennis player. So he did the right choice to choose tennis and not soccer. But what I want to say is that Federer is a great athlete. He would have been good in soccer as well. Not as good as in tennis, but he would have been good. So Federer is a great athlete, and that is on my number 4th place. On my number 3rd place, I have why Federer is so tremendous good in hardcourt and grass. It is, of course, his forehand. We cannot. This is no secret whatsoever that Federer's forehand has given him a lot of success, my friends. That has given him 20 Grand Slam titles. That has given him 102 titles. So far in his career, I think he will win more than 102 titles. I don't think he will stay with 102 titles, but I don't think he will win more slams. I hope I'm wrong about the slams. That has given him 28 Master 1000 titles, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he has 28 Master 1000 titles. That has made Federer a icon. That forehand. How many times has Federer saved break points and set points and match points with that forehand? I know that Federer is famous to lose a lot of matches, 22 I believe it is, when he has had match points. But Federer has saved a lot of match points as well in his career. And has saved set points, and that forehand has given him a lot of titles. I just can now, just on top of my mind, I'm just thinking about two Grand Slam titles that Federer has won. Maybe more, but two crucial ones where I have the proof and where I have the arguments, where the forehand, especially Federer's inside forehand. Federer's inside forehand, maybe it is the greatest shot of tennis, maybe. It can be discussed with Rafa's inside forehand as well, because Rafa's inside forehand is pretty deadly as well. Federer's inside forehand, especially on hardcourt and grass, Federer's inside forehand is maybe even more effective than Rafa's inside forehand. Rafa's inside forehand is mostly dangerous and deadly on hardcourt. It is on hardcourt as well, but it is more dangerous on clay. On clay. I said it wrong. I mean, Rafa's inside forehand is mostly dangerously deadly on clay. I'm not saying Rafa's inside forehand is not deadly on hardcourt and grass, but it is more deadly on clay. That is my opinion. And Federer's inside forehand is probably the most superb tennis shot of all time on hardcourt and grass. Federer's inside forehand. And I'm thinking on top of my mind two Grand Slam titles that Federer has won, where his inside forehand saved him, where his inside forehand took him out of the jail. The first tournament I'm thinking about here, on top of my mind, that 2009 French Open against Tommy Haas, 4th round. He was down 2-0, 3-4 in the 3rd set, 30-40, Tommy Haas break point, Federer serves, Tommy Haas makes it a return, and Federer just whips of inside forehand and saves that break point and saves that game and makes it to 4-4. In the end, wins the 3rd set, wins the 4th set, wins the 5th set, turn that match around, and the rest is history. Federer's only French Open title 10 years ago. And he was almost taken out in that 4th round against Tommy Haas. But the inside forehand did the job to him. The first tournament, it has happened more, but what I'm thinking about top of my mind. The second time that I'm thinking of top of my mind against Rafa Nadal in that epic gladiator fight, 2017 Australian Open final. Rafa, 2 break points in that 5th set, when Federer is serving for the match, 5-3. Federer is down 50-40. Federer is down 50-40. Rafa has 2 break points to level them, to take the break back. How does Federer save it? Of course, with his 2 big arsenal shots. forehand, and serve. The first break point he's saving in that fifth set when Federer is to serve out for the match with a serve ace, 30-40. All right, and then the second break point he's saving, of course, with Federer serves. Rafa makes it a long, deep return, and Federer hits, of course, with his inside forehand and makes a winner. And then Federer later on wins the match 6-3. And for me, that is Federer's biggest victory of his career, especially after the scenario, how it went after being out from the competition 6 months and beating his long-time nemesis for the first time in a Grand Slam match in 10 years. 2007, the last time, and 10 years later, 2017, Australian Open, he beats his long-time nemesis, Rafael Nadal. That the inside forehand took him out of the jail there as well. So, on my number third place, I have why Federer is so murderous good on hardcourt and grass is his forehand, of course. Especially Federer's inside forehand is probably the greatest tennis shot of all time on hardcourt and on grass. That is my feeling. That is my opinion. On my number second place, it is no secret, and it is no surprise for you guys, it is of course his serve. It is his serve. His serve, Federer's serve, and that's why Federer has been so successful this late in his career. He won 2 Grand Slam titles as 35 years old, and he won 1 Grand Slam title as 36 years old, and he almost won 1 Grand Slam title as 37 years old. Almost, and should have won it. A couple of months ago in Wimbledon final against Djokovic, he was only 1 point away. Why? Because his serve is still working. He still can do great serve, can do a lot of serve aces. He still finds the spots. I'm not saying that he's serving as good as he did 10 years ago when he was 26, 27, 28 years old. No, he's not serving as great as before. He's not doing the same amount of serve aces as 10 years ago when he was in his prime. He's not hitting the spots like as 10 years ago because he's older. It is pretty obvious why he's not serving as great as before, but he's still serving great, and that's why he's still successful, because the serve is making, he holds a lot of games with the help of his serve. It's not like Nadal or Djokovic. Djokovic and Nadal, especially not Nadal, they are Nadal. The serve has never been the number one reason why Rafa Nadal is so successful. We all know that why Rafa Nadal has been so successful throughout his career, because he's a tremendous good ball machine from the baseline. He outlasts his opponents, he grinds down his opponents, and he plays a low percentage of tennis with not many errors. Federer will always do much more errors than Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, because he is a maestro on the court. He goes more for his shots, both with his forehand, with his backhand. He chip and charge, he goes to the net. He has a total different tennis style than Djokovic and Nadal. We all know that. And he goes, and his serve is one of my top 6 reasons why Federer has been so successful throughout the years on hardcourt and grass. It is no coincidence whatsoever why Federer isn't as successful on clay. It is pretty obvious, because the serve is not as effective on clay, and he cannot outgrind, he cannot out-hit his opponents like Djokovic and Nadal can do. He cannot do it, and that's why Federer is doomed to beat Rafael Nadal in French Open, because it is 2 ways to beat Rafael Nadal in French Open: to outgrind, to outlast him, to challenge him from the baseline, a la Djokovic 2015 French Open, or to out-hit him with bombs, a la Roger Federer in 2009 French Open. And Federer doesn't have any of these 2 playing styles. Federer is somewhere between there. And to be somewhere between there, you're doomed against Rafael Nadal, especially in French Open. on a slow surface like it is in French Open, obviously clay. So the serve is definitely one of my top 6 reasons why Roger Federer has been so successful throughout the years. And that is on my number 2nd place. On my number 1st place, without any question of a doubt, this is a summary of all this: serve, forehand, athlete, talent, consistency, you name it. It is his ability to take time away from his opponents. Nobody throughout the ages has been as good as Federer to take time away from his opponents. Federer takes the ball so early that his opponents, they feel stressed on the court. They don't know what to do. Federer delivers so different balls to his opponents. He can play it with, he can hit it spin. Not as spinny as Nadal does, of course, but he has spin as well. He can hit it with spin. He can hit it flat. He can slice it. He can go to the net. He chips and charge. He can use drop shots. He has everything in the book. That's why Federer is the most popular tennis player in the entire world, and he is. I believe that Federer is the most popular tennis player in the world. Why? Because you know what you get from Djokovic and Nadal. Pure grinding ball machines from the baseline. Federer is a magician on the court. That's why he's called the maestro. It is no coincidence why Nadal, at least for me, Nadal is the beast. He's a consistency beast, Nadal. He never gives away points. You have to earn every single point. And he's never satisfied. He wants to break 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. He wants to bagel you 6-0. He's not satisfied with 6-1, 6-2. He's a consistency beast, Nadal. Djokovic, he's a mental terminator. He's a mental terminator. Djokovic, he thinks he's the best player in the world. Even if he isn't that all the time, in his mind, in his world, he is that. He is a mentally beast, Djokovic. He is good in clutch moments. That's why Djokovic has played against Federer 4 times. When the matches has gone to the distance, has 2 times in US Open, 2 times in Wimbledon. Federer has won all those 4 meetings. Djokovic has won all of those 4 meetings, and Federer has won 0. Against Nadal, Djokovic has played 3 times when the matches has gone to the distance. 1 time in US Open, 1 time in Wimbledon, and 1 time in French Open. Djokovic has won 2 of those matches. Australian Open 2012, Wimbledon 2018. Why? And Nadal has won only 1, 2013 French Open. That epic clay match in the semi-final. To me, in my opinion, the greatest clay court match of all time, 2013 French Open semi-final. Why has Djokovic won 2 of those battles when the matches has gone to distance? Because he's a mental terminator. He's a mental terminator. So to me, Djokovic is the mental terminator. He's a terminator mentally. Nadal is a consistency beast. Federer is a magician. Federer is a magician on the court. The opponents, they feel confused because they never know what Federer will do on the court. And that's why on my number 1 place, why Federer has been so successful throughout the years, is because of his ability to take time away from his opponents. He's a magician on the court. Like I said, he can do everything on the court. He's not as consistent as Nadal and as Djokovic, especially not Nadal. But when you play that kind of tennis like Federer does, with a low percentage of tennis, you can never be as consistent as Nadal. You cannot expect the dude to do 15 unforced errors like Nadal can do in a match. Federer will always do 30, 40 unforced errors. But when Federer is in that full flow, he will do 70 winners. He will do 65 winners. He will do 25, 35 plus more winners than unforced errors. And when Federer is on that mood, he will kill you on the court. He will basically kill you. You will not have any time to think. When Federer takes that ball so early, and when Federer does a bunch of winners, you will not have a chance. You will not have a chance. When Federer is a machine error like he is nowadays when he's older, than people like Tsitsipas, people like Rublev, people like Zverev, they will beat him because he's older now. He does much more errors, and he doesn't do winners as he used to do when he was in his prime. Because he's older, he's not doing as many aces like he did before. He's not finding his spots with his serve like he did before. But when Federer was younger, when Federer was in his prime, and still today sometimes, Federer is pure magic on the court. And my number one place is his ability to take time away from his opponents. Djokovic and Nadal doesn't take time away from his opponents like Federer does. Nobody in the history of the game has taken time away from his opponents like Federer has done. And that's why, these are my top 6 reasons why Federer has been so successful on grass and hard court, especially on grass and hard court where the courts are fast. And in that way, Federer's game is fully committed, fully perfect. Federer's game suits perfect on hard court, on grass, with these 6 attributes. Alright guys, these were my 6 reasons why Federer has been so murderous good on hard court and grass. On my number 6 place, he's super talented. On my number 5th place, he's deadly consistent. On my number 4th place, he's of course really a great athlete. On my number 3rd place, he's great forehand. On my 2nd place, of course, his great serve. And on my number 1 place, without any question of a doubt, his ability to take time away from his opponents like nobody else can do. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care and bye bye.